Hello, Unmasked Agenda listeners. This is your friendly neighborhood agitator, Cliff Cawthon, and I'm here with Andrew Ashiofu, the chair of the Washington State Stonewall Democrats. And if you're in the fighting 37th, then you might recognize him for their run for, what was it, state representative, I believe?
Yeah.
Couple of years back. Really good campaign. And if you are at all involved in the political scene, you've seen Andrew pop up many times as an advocate and all around nice guy. Um, it is great to have you on the stream, Andrew.
Thank you for having me here, Cliff. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm honored that you joined us on such late notice. So yesterday, so let me tell you why you're here, which I mean you obviously know, but our listeners don't. So yesterday we had our season finale for um, our second season, and if you are listening to this, I'm glad you found our bonus content on our YouTube channel and Spotify. And we will be coming back in the next couple of months with a season three. But for now, you can enjoy this awesome bonus content and definitely subscribe, like and subscribe. Um, but yesterday we were talking about the strangers' endorsements, and I believe was it this morning you came out with a statement, a really powerful statement on a particular endorsement around the ninth congressional race when it came to light that one of the candidates harbored some anti-LGBTQ views when it came to their strategy, and I thought we should talk about that because it occurs to me we didn't really get a chance in the season finale to really dig into it. And we do bring it up, but I thought with such an esteemed community member wading into the greater conversation around what the heck is going on with the stranger, we should talk about this. So, Andrew, let me just stop blabbering on and ask you straight away what can you share with our listeners what this statement was and also your broader thoughts on this race?
So it was about the article on the endorsement for the Washington District 9 race. The stranger did endorse Shama Sawant, but it was
Mhm.
interesting about the other, there are two Democrats. We have Congressman Smith in there, and we have Melissa Chaudry, who ran
Right.
against Adam 2 years ago. And it was shocking that in her endorsement interview with the stranger, she did reveal why the reason she did not have any LGBTQ plus policy on her at all was because
Right.
she didn't want to offend the Muslim community, which to me is Islamophobic and also
Right.
anti-LGBTQ plus, because you're assuming we don't have people that are allies that are Muslims, or we don't have
Yeah.
people from that community that are Muslims.
Yeah.
And the other shocking aspect was revealing that if she gets elected, she was going to switch parties
Right. Right.
to. And so for me, I felt that's very deceptive.
Hmm.
Two, that's not someone I want to represent my community. And we also have legislative districts that I think have endorsed her or were close to endorsing her by one or two votes.
Absolutely. So, just to clarify something I said yesterday, because like this, homophobia, transphobia is absolutely unacceptable. And on the part about making a break from the Dems, I mean, for me personally, I look at them like, okay, yeah, we need a more left-wing party. I get that. Definitely wouldn't go with the Greens, given Jill Stein's proximity to Trump and Putin. I personally would have went with the Working Families Party, but going back to her statements, yeah, like it. I gotta say, I was shocked. But my question to you then is, what about the broader race? Because honestly, one thing you said in your statement I thought was really powerful and made me say to myself, damn, Melissa has really fallen off. I say that as someone that considers her a friend. I appreciate what her and her husband have gone through. We've had her on a show a couple of times, but like you put it, to deprioritize the safety of LGBTQ people because of this very dichotomous, um, basically to win over people who are transphobic and homophobic is just unacceptable, you know? But we also have a race, and it's not so much a but, more an and. I'm curious what you think of this with Adam Smith and Shama Swan, who both, well, I'll hold my tongue. I want to hear what you think. But yeah.
So I I am one of those non one issue voter. And I say this because as a black person, as a
Mhm.
queer person, as a child of immigrants, I have learned that to get to where I want with politicians, I have to see who is going to take me to the nearest bus stop. I don't have the luxury of being a one issue voter. My family is suffering from Trump's immigration. I am suffering from Trump's anti-LGBTQ plus. The trans community is suffering. Black people are losing their civil rights. We see what's happening with redistricting. So for this race, I want more than we're going to stop the war or we're going to reduce funding for
Right.
me. I want what are you going to do regarding healthcare? What are you
Mhm.
going to do regarding LGBTQ plus people? What are you going to do regarding education? What are you going to do regarding immigration? And it's very important that we take the playbook that was used in Hungary and saw how all the parties united together to get rid of Auburn's dictatorship
Mhm.
and authoritarian rule. We should bring that. I tell people if you go to DC and your
Mhm.
whole aesthetics is I'm going to fight against the Democrats,
Mm.
then how effective would you be in
Yeah.
passing policies and bills? So it's very
Yeah.
important that we are intentional on who we want to represent us. We need to cause chaos, but we need to cause good chaos. And you cannot achieve anything if you're in an isolation. You be as and I say this slightly, this is where my Nigerian British education, Texas born and raised is going to come out. We don't want
Yeah.
someone that will
Yeah,
be
cousin.
as useless as the letter P in psychology. It is present, but it doesn't make any difference to the pronunciation. So
Yeah.
we want an effective leader in DC. I would like to see all candidates, especially once we go into the general, expand on their policies to go beyond one issue. Because what we're
Yeah.
facing right now goes beyond one issue: civil rights, redistricting, immigration, anti-LGBT plus, transphobia, economic downfall, agriculture has been impacted. Everything is happening and we're seeing it live. So, what are you going to do?
So, as much as for various reasons, which I could go on a long hour-long rant, but honestly, the folks don't just tune in for my lovely smile and repartee. They tune in for Nigerian, British, Texas raised political insight. Which right on, I love that. Sorry. For context, a lot of folks in the African diaspora in the United States can trace their ancestry back to Nigeria, to Ghana, to Senegal, to the Gambia, to Togo and Benin, and even like further inward in the continent. And you reminded me of a couple of friends I had back in the UK, when that were Nigerian. And they regarded me. I remember we would like hang out, and they're like, "You're our loud cousin. You're our loud cousin." So when you said that, I was like, "Oh, it brings back good memories." But all right, cuz, so let me throw this at you, this curveball. All right. So objectively, we see Melissa Chaudry doing a lot of campaigning online, but we've not seen a lot of canvassing. She was, to correct me if I'm wrong, not in the Pride Parade. Shama was there, Adam was there. I will withhold my critiques of which person had like the most, present appearance at the Pride Parade between Adam Smith and Shama Sawant's contingents. However, it really does feel like it's gearing up to be a race for them. And who knows, maybe Melissa does make it through, right? But let's say it is Sawant versus and actually I'll come back to that divergent timeline in a second, but let's say it's Sawant versus Smith, right? So do you feel like Shama Sawant is going to be able to expand her platform to be able to be as inclusive a policy as you're suggesting?
I would say is she has to build a coalition outside of predominantly white community
Yeah,
for that district. And for her to build that coalition and to talk to the people, you're talking about a district that is heavily Asian, heavily Black, African American,
it's a
heavily
majority
immigrant.
black and brown.
Yeah. And, farm workers and things like that. And we have a few specks of military people there also. So I do hope that if she makes it to the general, her message goes not her message goes beyond saying we're going to fight the Democrats.
Right. Which, I
And
mean, Democrats make a majority of voters in her district. So
yeah,
it's,
because
yeah,
she's not going to lean into the Republicans that might not make it to the general. And you're
right.
telling a group of community people that have been one of the Black community is the strongest voting base for the Democrat Party,
Absolutely.
followed by and this is something we also need to call out is we cannot also ignore that the Jewish community votes majority Democrats, whether we want to address that or not. So I want her to expand on her policy, and I hope she does. Um,
Mhm.
but at the same time, is she needs to start interacting with the people, with the grassroots.
Yeah.
It's easy to hear the loud noises around you, and the loud noises sometimes will block away the people all the way in the back, and
So,
that's where her issue might be.
so one, hmm, so there's a point you made that I've made a bunch of times where if you look at her staff, you look at like who she hires, like when she was in council, she had the whitest office out of any council member. Just, I mean, I'm talking about conservative Bruce Harrell, conservative. Oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. Deborah Juarez,
Yeah.
like, the people that, and again, I consider myself a leftist, so I don't necessarily agree with them on policy. But when you looked at their office, they looked more like Seattle versus her office, which was all white, all socialist alternative members, and furthermore, when it came to her closest policy advisors, two white dudes, one of whom, was her husband, right? Um, well, actually, it's more like several. There's one person for a time who was Indian American, but then they left. Um, but some would say that, well, she does have like leaders from the black community that do back her. She has, activists and people who are outside of the Beltway. Well, I wouldn't call it the Beltway, maybe the Fourth Avenue way. I don't know, but like she has people outside of Seattle's political ecosystem that do back her, and also she has stood 10 toes down, at least publicly, with the Black Lives Matter movement. So, taking that into account, how does that figure into what you're saying about interacting with the Black community in the Ninth and interacting with other communities of color?
Cliff, as Black people involved in politics in this region,
I
you
had to
know,
ask, brother. You know that. Anyway, keep going. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want, yeah, please.
you know
Be
that
real.
that there are them, and once you start doing the work, you know the reality on ground. You
Hmm.
know, having a Black activist that doesn't have a connection with Rainier Avenue, doesn't have a connection with Black and Tan, with Converge Media, doesn't have a connection, doesn't know who Representative Don Mason is, doesn't
Hmm.
know who the Stevens family are, or doesn't know where to eat the best soul food on Rainier Ave.
That's real.
That's not having the community. And we need to also understand is Black Seattle community will ask you, what have you even done for us that you think you're going
Hmm.
to do for us when you're in office? You're going to tell us what we want to hear, but then there are people that have brought money to the community. There are people that have done the work in the community. That there are people that have built the bridge. And one thing about the community, especially the Black and brown community, is we are not into, once you start attacking people in your race, you start
Hmm.
getting you start losing the community. We want to know what you're going to do. We don't care about the other person. What makes you different from that person? How do you
Hmm.
relate to our struggles? How do you relate to the redlining?
Right.
How do you relate to reparations? When you go there, what are you going to do to ensure that we could get back our all the redistricting that was lost? How are we going to get back? What's your goal to bringing back DEI in our workspace, in
Hmm.
our education? So I think he has the spec, but not the cluster.
Right. So in that case, let's flip on its head because Adam Smith has been in since what, 1998? And yeah, yeah.
Way
So,
before I
so
could vote.
yes, like I was more interested in Power Rangers than politics at that time. I'll say that. I was a lot, but very, very young. But yeah, so yeah, he's been in since 1998, and one can make the argument that he's brought in a lot of money. He's brought in he is the chair of the ARP, or the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. Now, he used to be the chair of the Armed Services Committee. Knows the district rather well, except not necessarily what you would call a grassroots guy. Very much like knows the power players in the district for sure, and powerful in his own right, but also with that has had a history of really supporting every single military contract, every single like corporate giveaway, while also supporting progressive things, very much like being a centrist to like sometimes liberal Democrat, and also recently with the genocide in Gaza, very much unapologetically supportive of Israel and uncritical of arming Israel as well. So I say all this to say, is there a path you think that Adam Smith can take to really not just court the left, but to get back into the he's okay graces of the left? Because right now it went from he's, and also I should add, and this is a minor thing. I personally consider it a minor but important, I should say, because it's very recent, his flirtations with the far right and throwing the city of Seattle and throwing many of us on the left under the bus for defending DEI and for defending LGBTQ community when he was speaking to people like Christopher Rufo and other far right, people saying, "Oh, Seattle goes too far, and maybe we need to be less concerned about queer folks and black folks and so on and so forth." Right. So, yeah. Do you think there's a way where Adam Smith can maybe post primary do like a healing thing with the left? So the left is like,
I would say
yeah,
this is um, Adam has 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 been so in the politics that sometimes when you're in a very strong blue district and you know you don't have any strong opponent, you just do what you want. And I hope that this election brings a very strong opponent in the general
mm,
election. I will say that I once you start going on shows like Brandy Cruz, granting
hmm,
Jonathan Show an interview, Harry Hoffman and Jason Rance, and start going that way, you start losing people. And he needs to understand that you're not in the purple district.
yeah,
You're not in, you're not losing by less than 5%. You're not you're
right,
winning by way more than in double digits every election cycle.
yeah,
I will say that sometimes I wish Washington state elected officials were like Minnesota
hmm,
Democrats who, with even a slim margin, go very progressive, unapologetic. um
right.
is there a way forward? There might be, but I also think that, and I'm not going to mention names, but we have very well seasoned progressive people that can actually take on Adam Smith that is more likely to win.
So, quick question: why don't they? You think? If you don't want to share, it's okay. I'm literally, I'm just asking. Like, why
I,
why don't you think they take on Adam Smith? Because I think I know the people you're talking about, or like some of them. And I mean, if there is any time to take on an incumbent, even a very powerful incumbent,
yeah, we saw what happened in Colorado
right?
when the Congress member lost her primary. We see what happened in
Yeah.
New York. I will say this though, because Washington politics in reality, or Seattle politics, is a polite politics.
Mm, right, right,
Um,
right.
as I said earlier on, we don't really go after people's personal life or everything. If not, a lot of people would not even be elected. We look at what your policy, your community activism. Um, I would also say that I want to stress this: when I say we need new voices, a new generation, I don't really talk
Hmm.
about age wise, but I talk
Right.
about ideology wise.
Hmm.
Because we've seen, I mean, there are very young people that are full blown MAGA in DC, full blown MAGA in Olympia here. We look at the right wing um podcast people in our state are very young people. So for me, is someone that would come and bring progressive values. I also think that another reason why they are not running is because a lot of things are happening in the background. And I want to believe that
Mm.
hopefully in 2028, there will be most of these people will be ready to step up.
Mm. Anyway, I know I originally said this would be like 10, 15 minutes, so I've kept you for almost 25. Andrew, go enjoy the sun, or I think it's still sunny. Yeah, it's still sunny. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on to stream. And for those of you who are watching, I hope you enjoyed this bonus interview, and it was certainly a bonus.
Yeah, and
Appreciate Um, I appreciate the work you do, Andrew, and hopefully, hey, enjoy your fourth of a lie. That is what I call it because, as you and I both know, America's independence was not all inclusive. Unfortunately, it was not all inclusive.
Yeah.
Not all inclusive process, but we can make things better by fighting forward and fighting
Yes,
for
we
the.
can.
Thank you, brother. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me, Cliff. Happy 4th of July, and thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Peace.